Hey, Shalom. I want to give all praises, honor, and glory unto Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahushai, Ba'ashem, Rekakodash. I want to give double honors unto the apostles and elders of the great millstone where I learned this truth from. I want to say peace, mercy, and blessings unto all the hopeful elect. The correct name of the Heavenly Father is Yahweh, and that means He exists, that He's to be. The name of the Son is Yahushai, that means He's the deliverer. All right, and this lesson is going to be on this video, pretty much, as you can see, the least of the flock's endgame in Persia revealed. Now, this video is from 12 days ago, and I just, saw this, came across this video, but I also came across this article. This article from April 8th, about 3 days ago now. It's midnight Esau's time, but it's still relevant, right? It says, end time headlines, automatic enrollment of eligible men into the U.S. military draft system to begin in December. Which, Lord willing, we're not here in fucking December. You know what I mean? But shit is popping off with this war, man. All right. And then you have recently, with the UAE, they just recently attacked Iran, which that's the United. All right. It's from 2 days ago, too, from Al Jazeera. Saudi Arabia, UAE, Kuwait, Qatar, Bahrain report attacks after Iran U.S. truce. All right, and it said U.S., but the least of the flock, they all gas, no brakes, man. They're nonstop. They're not taking heed to no truce. Several strikes reported across the Gulf region, hours after the U.S. and Iran announced a ceasefire for 2 weeks. So, hey, when they shall say peace and safety, then sudden destruction coming. So that's the sound of battle in the land. This thing is not going to slow down, right?
Committee that would allow safe access by all ships.
I'm going to start at about the 15-minute mark. It's a 30-minute video, but it really starts getting juicy around the 20-minute mark. But it's a lot of good information that's going in.
Now, that makes a lot of sense. Of course, they all want that. Their oil is blocked and can't get through the Strait of Hormuz. Their oil fields and gas fields are being bombed in the Gulf. So they have a very high incentive to get this thing wrapped up. But in a way that works for them, because there's a giant bogey for them that came after the war started. We're going to get to that in a second. Wall Street Journal continues. The Iranian Revolutionary Guard replied that Iran should collect fees from transiting ships, just as Egypt does now with the Suez Canal. SpaghettiOs. So therein lies the rub, guys. Before we started the war, everybody could go through the Strait of Hormuz. Now, Iran blocked the Strait of Hormuz, and no one can go through it unless they have permission from Iran, and some do.
This is causing the price of oil, and other things to go up as well. All right, but if you look at the gas prices in America, they're getting up there. Shit, up here in upstate in NY, they're up to $4 a gallon. As of April 10, 2026, the average price for regular gas in the United States is approximately $4.15 a gallon, marking a significant rise above $4, the highest since 2022. And that goes back to when I believe Biden was up in there about inflation, right? Prices have surged over 60 cents in a month, with some states, particularly on the West Coast, exceeding $5 per gallon. Current national average, regular $4.15 a gallon, diesel $5.68 a gallon. Price trend sharp increase over the past month due to geopolitical tensions in the Middle East. Through potential ceasefires may cause fatality. Okay, so it's already affecting the price of gas, but it's not just going to affect the price of gas. Other prices are going to be affected going into the summer later this year,
No one can go through it unless they have permission from Iran, and some do. We have allowed some of the Chinese ships, et cetera, to get through. Why? Because we're worried about the price of oil. And so now Iran realizes after the war, wait a minute, apparently we totally run the Strait of Hormuz. Why don't we charge a toll like the Egyptians do at the Suez Canal? Now the Saudis, the folks from the UAE and many other countries are like, whoa, 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 whoa. Now we have to pay more to get our oil out? And we have to give it to Iran, who is oftentimes our enemy? Yeah, maybe you shouldn't have started the war. Maybe you should have listened to some of us who said this is a disastrous idea. Now, to be fair to the Gulf countries, they didn't really want this war in the first place. But now that it has started, the Saudis have changed their minds about how to end it. Get to that in a second. Now, meanwhile, Qatar, Oman, France, UK, all saying, please, let's negotiate, okay? We got to get out of here. This is terrible for the whole world, asterisks, except Israel, who loves it. So Wall Street Journal reported that Trump, after he was informed of these negotiations, and this is the part where it's a little dicey, and you could tell that the administration's happy about these leaks. I'll give you a quote from Caroline Levitt in a minute to prove that. But they say Trump's shift followed a series of closed-door discussions through Middle Eastern intermediaries that U.S. officials gave them hope an agreement to settle the conflict was possible. It also reflected a growing desire by Trump and some of his advisors to bring the war to a close. So now that's important in a couple of ways. Number one, our press is saying, and rightfully so, this is a rare case, it might have been about the price of oil and the stock market. Only some in the press are saying that, but whoever it is, credit where credit is due, that's closer to correct, right? This is kind of a halfway leak from the administration to cover their own ass and to go, well, I mean, it wasn't just about the manipulating the markets, and it's not because we're desperate. It's that Oman asked us to come to these negotiations, and we thought, Oman, how could we not go? And that's why Donald Trump gave this 5-day buffer. All right, yeah, sure. But also it's important to note that,
which really with that whole ceasefire, what Babylon, what they're doing, they're really planning. They could be planning on sending ground troops if they are going to send ground troops over there. This is from the AI overview. As of late March and early April 2026, the U.S. has deployed over 3,500 additional ground troops, including Marines from the 31st Marine Expeditionary Unit and paratroopers from the 82nd Airborne Division to the Middle East, with plans for more as tensions with Iran escalate. Some reports suggest that the potential closer to 8,000. Well, they lie about the numbers. All right? We're dealing with the damn devil. This is from New York Post on March 29th. March 29, 2026, New York Post. 3,500 U.S. troops arrive in the Middle East on USS Tripoli as Persia issues threat against ground invasion. All right? So there's troops going to be over there, man. All right? And the troops that go over there, they ain't coming
all right,
home.
yeah, sure. But also it's important to note that the Americans do want this war to be over as quickly as possible. Not just the American people. That's
Nobody wants to fucking go to war for the little hats. Remember my man Brian McGinnis. Nobody wants to go to war for the little hats,
already baked in, but now the administration realizing, oops, we screwed up here. So now let's go to the New York Times. They explain the Saudi motivations. They say Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman has been pushing President Trump to continue its war against Iran, arguing that the U.S.-Israeli military campaign presents a, quote, historic opportunity to remake the Middle East, sounding like the Israelis there. So wait a minute, how could the Saudis want to get to a peace deal but want to remake the Middle East and continue to go with Iran? Because at this point,
the Amalek, man, the least of the flock, the Holy Land's gonna get hit with nukes. Scripture says that the earth shall reel to and fro like a drunkard. Babylon the Great is gonna get hit with nukes, right?
the Saudis have realized, not the other Gulf countries that I mentioned, just the Saudis, yeah, it's too late.
So yeah, the nuclear destruction is what's gonna remake the Middle East. But then you have New Jerusalem coming down from heaven and enslave the planet Earth. So, you know.
Now, if America leaves, we're at the mercy of Iran because they've been bombing us to no end, and we got barely any defenses. We're huffing and puffing about, oh, we got this big military. We could do a lot of damage. But we can't stop a damn thing. And the Strait of Hormuz is closed, and I got to pay taxes on it now. Now that we started, we got to go all the way in. So how do they want to remake the Middle East? Back to New York Times. Trump has at times seemed open to winding down the war, but Prince Mohammed has argued that would be a mistake. People briefed on the conversation said and has pressed for attacks against Iran's energy infrastructure to weaken the government in Iran.
This thing is not going to stop until it gets nuked. It's going to go nuclear. Nukes going to be used, man. All right? It's going to turn into the Third World War, which we're already in it. All right? It's only going to blow up.
But wait, if you thought that was bad, and it is, get a load of the next sentence. Prince Mohammed has advocated ground operations in his conversations with Trump. Okay, so...
See that? All right, and this is the Prince of Saudi Arabia, Mohammed, has advocated ground operations in his conversations with Trump. Right? So what that means, man. All right? These Babylonian people, they're going to get fucking drafted and sent to the Middle East.
Look, let's pause here. First of all, the Saudis would like us to expend American soldiers for their benefit and more American dollars for their benefit. Well, I have the same answer to them as I do to the Israelis. Go pound sand. Not my business, man. You have this war with Iran. But you say you didn't want it. You chose the wrong alliances. You chose Israel, and that's who the Saudis have been working with this whole time. UAE is totally in bed with Israel. Oh, it turns out Israel screwed you. Who could have seen?
We just had the UAE attack. All right, I want to pause this video. I'm going to go to the short from my man, Israeli News Live.
With a ceasefire that J.D. Vance has brokered with Pakistan. With a ceasefire that J.D. Vance has brokered with Pakistan, with Iran and the United States, might be lasting longer with the United States and Iran, but it certainly has not stopped now the United Arab Emirates for launching their own strikes on Iran. So Iran has...
The United Arab Emirates, the UAE, has launched their own attack on Iran. I believe this is recent, you know. This is from... Israeli News Live, which he puts up a lot of good information. He has been putting up a lot of good information for years. You know, this most recent video.
With a ceasefire that
can't see the date, you know, but
J.D. Vance has brokered with Pakistan, with Iran and the United States, might be lasting longer with the United States and Iran, but it certainly has not stopped now the United Arab Emirates for launching their own strikes on Iran. So Iran has once again turned back all the ships and have closed the Strait of Hormuz. It's kind of interesting, and I only wonder which country is behind that. I'm sure Israel has their fingers in the cookie jar, so to speak, making sure...
They've been causing all types of shit over there. All right? As soon as the West made the ceasefire, they broke it. All right? Attacking up there in Lebanon. You know?
That the war does not stop. They want a Gog of Magog war, and they're not going to be set.
That goes into Ezekiel 38, which that's pretty much World War III, which both of those nations get hit, you know?
Satisfied until they get one. So now Iran is under attack by the United Arab Emirates, and I can only imagine this is not going to go very well. Anyway, we'll be updating you. I'm trying to get more information before I go deeper into this. Israel is also not stopping their attacks on Beirut, Lebanon.
I guess they cut his audio or whatever. You know, this is Jeremiah chapter 50 and verse 22. A sound of battle is in the land and of great destruction. Right? Back to this article from End Time Headlines. Actually, before I get this, let's go back. This is going to get even juicier.
Screwed you. Who could have seen that coming? Me and every analyst, but you schmucks didn't see that coming. So now you want us to fix your problem with American ground troops? Hell no. Now, of course, our answer is going to be yes, because our leaders are corrupt and don't work for us at all. They work for the highest bidder. The Saudis will dangle some money in front of Trump, and the Israelis are dangling everything else in front of Trump. And Trump is like, help the Saudis and the Israelis. I love it. Like, where's America first? Okay, here's a simple idea.
It won't ever be first.
Press at all, because discussing it is anti-Semitic. Why don't we use Israeli troops for the ground invasion? Why don't we use, okay, is this Islamophobic? Why don't we use Saudi troops for the ground invasion? If the
They're
Saudis
going to use the Western troops, man. All right? They're going to use the Western troops. And they're going to check in, but they won't check out. This is Joel 2 and 20 in the Amplified Bible. It says, but I will remove the northern army far away from you, and I will drive it into a parched and desolate land, with its forward garden to the eastern sea, Dead Sea, and with its rear garden to the western sea, Mediterranean Sea. And the stench will arise, and its foul odor of decay will come up. This is the fate of Yahweh Shem Shai, the northern army, in the final day of the Lord. That's dealing with the military of the West, different military branches, Air Force, Space Force, Marines, etc. Now check this shit out. Automatic enrollment of eligible men into the U.S. military draft system start to begin in December. Automatic enrollment of eligible men into the U.S. military draft system is expected to begin in December, marking a significant shift from the long-standing requirement that individuals should register on their own. The change follows a coordinated push by federal lawmakers and the selective service system to modernize and simplify the process. Under the new approach, registration data will be gathered through existing government records, reducing the need for individuals to take separate action. Officials say the move is intended to improve compliance and eliminate gaps in the current system. For decades, men have been required to register with the selective service within 30 days of turning 18, but enforcement has been inconsistent and largely dependent on voluntary participation. The updated system aims to address those shortcomings by making registration automatic, as described in the original reporting. Automatic registration to the U.S. military draft pool for eligible men is slated to begin in December, reflecting what policymakers view as a more efficient and reliable framework. Supporters argue that the shift will reduce administrative burden and ensure a more complete and accurate database if the draft is ever reinstated. They also note that many young men are unaware of the requirement or fail to register on time, which can affect eligibility for federal benefits such as student aid and government employment. At the same time, critics have raised concerns about privacy and the expansion of federal data sharing practices. Some advocacy groups have also questioned whether the change should become accompanied by broader reforms, including reconsideration of who is required to register. The Selective Service System has indicated that implementation efforts are underway, with agencies working to coordinate data collection and verification ahead of the December rollout. Lawmakers involved in the effort have emphasized that the goal is not to reinstate a draft, but to ensure preparedness in the event of a national emergency. That's bullshit, man. They're going to reinstate a draft. Men and women are going to be drafted, and they're going to be chipped and shipped. They're going to get dipped in a lake of fire. All right.
Why don't we use Saudi troops for the ground invasion? If the Saudis and the Israelis want ground troops so bad, why don't you use your own army?
Where do you think the ground troops gonna come from? They're gonna come from the west. They're gonna be drafted. People, they gonna have to force them to go. People don't want to fucking go and fight for the small hats. Go back to that Marine that broke his hand, Brian McGinnis. You know, was everybody sharing that same sentiment? Nobody wants to fight and die for them.
Oh, your armies that you constantly brag about. The Saudis are like, they better not let us get into the war. Okay, who's stopping you, big guy? Okay? And the Israelis, IDF. Yeah, the IDF is fantastic at murdering women and children who are totally defenseless.
Yeah,
But
Esau's a coward. Esau's a coward.
when it comes to Iran, they're like, no, that's a meat grinder. Send in the Americans. The schmuck Americans. We bought all their leaders.
Exactly. They're gonna be sent to the meat grinder. All right. A lot of people gonna be sent to that meat grinder. A lot of YNs, you know.
And we'll drive them into the meat grinder. And that is what's happening. Later in the show, you'll see the Israelis are talking about taking more land, including Lebanon and Syria, big parts of Lebanon and Syria, because they figure, well, America's going to pay for it. Why not expand our empire? So now, let's go a little further into the disaster and why none of this is going to work anyway, because we're not going to be able to get out. Okay, so the Saudis are thinking, well, I don't want to pay that tax, so you go in further. Now the Gulf states, Wall Street Journal says the Gulf states are unified in their anger with Iran, Arab officials said, but they're also angry at the realization they aren't able to exert much influence on the Trump administration's decisions, despite being security partners and investing heavily in the relationship, they said. Oh, you schmucks thought that Trump was going to prioritize you over the Israelis? Man. Look, you have to remember, these are like...
They don't prioritize the American people over the Israelis. So why would they prioritize their allies? You know, now a lot of the allies is turning against them, seeing that they can't protect them, or, you know, the West is just sitting on them.
18th generation, like inter-family married royals. Okay, like they don't know anything in the world. They're like, oh, golly, gee, we gave a lot of money to Donald Trump. I bet the entire infrastructure of the United States that supports Israel will turn around immediately. God, you guys know nothing. Wall Street Journal continues. Arab states thought they had successfully lobbied the U.S. to prevent such attacks after an earlier Israeli strike on fuel depots in Tehran. That's earlier in this particular war, not the June war. Instead, the U.S. allowed the strike on South Pars to go ahead after receiving advance notice from Israel, American and Israeli officials said. So they're like, well, Trump promised us, and we've given him, you know, all this deals and Kushner billions of dollars, his son-in-law, that, you know, he wouldn't bomb and he would keep the Israelis from bombing the oil fields, because if they do, or the gas fields, then the Iranians are going to strike back and bomb our oil fields and gas fields. So a good thing we got Trump under control. And Trump's like, oh, the Israelis asked for something? Right away, sir. I'm so sorry, Benjamin Netanyahu, for not doing it earlier. So he's like, yeah.
All right, pretty much bound down to him, and that's why it says the least of the flock shall draw him out. The Jeremiah 50:45. Therefore hear ye the counsel of Yahweh Hashem Yahushai, that he had taken against Babylon. And his purpose is that it proposed against the land of the Chaldeans. Surely the least of the flock shall draw them out, and they're not going to stop until the West is completely drawn out and destroyed. All right? Their own allies are tired of this shit. All right? Surely shall make their habitation desolate with them.
So sorry, Benjamin Netanyahu, for not doing it earlier. So he's like, yes, let's bomb their fields. And the Saudis are like, what? You said you weren't going to bomb the fields. Hey, schmucks in the Gulf, America works for Israel. How did you miss that? How bad is your intelligence? They bought 94% of our Congress. They've given Trump $337 million. Let alone the fact that our entire media is like, poor Israel, the victims of victims doing self-defense. You didn't notice any of that? That our media and our politicians are totally in the tank for Israel? They're so blind and ignorant. All right, so Trump seems prepared, they say, to...
All right, this is about, like I said, it's about a 30-minute video. But, you know, that's pretty much, you know, Spirit hopped on me to, you know, do that. But that's pretty much, I'll read this again. It's Joel 2:20. But I will remove the northern army far from you, and will drive them to a parse and that's in the land that's over there to the Middle East, right? They're gonna get chipped and shipped, right? With its forward guard into the eastern sea, the Dead Sea, and with its rear guard into the western sea, the Mediterranean. And its stench will arise, and its foul odor will decay will come up. This is the fate of the northern army in the final day of Yahweh Shem Yahushai, for he had done great things. So Yahweh Shem Yahushai is going to do a great thing by destroying Esau and his military might, and all those people get drafted and end up over there. They're going to die over there. All right? They're going to check in. They're going to get chipped, but they won't check out. Right? So yeah, man, it ain't a good time to join the military, which nobody wants to any damn way. That's why they're gonna have to bring the draft back, you know. And a lot of women gonna get drafted too, you know. But with that, just a quick hit. I pray this has brought some edification. I want to give all praise, honor, glory to Yahweh Shem Yahushai. Say shalom to the hopeful elect.